Welcome to the May 14th, 2019 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, Lotus Prince,
and
this is...
I'm vysethebold. Could we start over? We should do the intros over again, probably. I mean, Lotus Prince, back from the dead.
And this is Old Man Stumpy. Hello. I'm going to talk 5 hours about wrestling and Magic the Gathering.
Old Man Stumpy, you moved back to Europe already?
It's an Old Man Stumpy episode, everybody.
Yes,
Turn off your podcast player.
I'm currently sitting in a particle accelerator, yes. I'm being friends with the black holes.
You were just at my place like 2 days ago. You really left in a hurry.
This is Dracologist. Hi, everyone.
Oh, wow.
And
we all three of us were confused for quite some time. This is the worst intro I've ever done.
2 Lotus Princes and 1 Old Man Stumpy.
Vice forgot who he was. I forgot who I was. Dracologist forgot who he was. This is embarrassing.
I was going for a real Spartacus kind of thing, and you just screwed it all up, Dracologist. Come on. We're
I've never even seen Spartacus.
All of the Romans are going to kill us now because we didn't disguise ourselves.
They're already dead. It's fine.
Except for the people that live in Rome.
The ancient Romans, I mean.
This is the case of everyone is a magic goose.
Yes.
Well,
you have no idea what I'm talking about.
No idea.
That is correct.
I'll tell you later. All right,
you'll tell me when I'm older.
Yes.
Which is always the case.
Yeah, technically, yes.
All right, so this year, or this year.
Wow.
Fuck. This week is going to be a lot lighter than last week, I can tell you that, on social issues, but...
it's certainly heavier on the intro.
Yeah.
You sure about that?
I can tell you this, that that was probably our most successful episode of Reactive Consciousness ever, in terms of fan engagement and likes and all that kind of stuff. I was real happy with the way that went. So maybe we'll have epic story time a little bit more often if I can find some material for us. But having said that, I mostly have a lot of little announcements to go over, really, and that's pretty much it for this week. But there's some cool stuff going on, so I did want to talk about things for a little bit. The first thing is that Limited Run Games had a pre-order open up. Very short window of time for this kind of thing. It was for the Battle Garrega Limited Run. Now, this is a game that was an underground hit on the Sega Saturn. It was also an arcade game as well, but it was made by former Tauplan and Taito members, and those people actually graduated and went on to Cave and now are working at M2, who I talk about all the time. I talk about they're the people that are making the Genesis Classic,
Mm-hmm.
and all these different compilations that I've been talking about over the past few months, but they are basically the best emulation house, basically because they're made up of the people who made these games.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. So a lot of times what they do is they improve the games. They don't just emulate them, they improve them. They add features and stuff.
Actually, in the terminology, simulation is doing the same. Emulation is elevating it, improving it. So, in a sense, if you're emulating it, you're making it better.
Well, either way, regardless of semantics, they go above and beyond what the normal emulation house will do. They don't do just a straight port, but a lot of times what they'll do is they'll include the stripped down version that you would really want if you're a purist. But almost always their improvements are essential and really great. They brought Battle Garrega over to the United States a little while ago, probably about a year ago at this point. And they said that if the limited run of the physical game sold well enough, they would bring over more of the titles in the series. They have 4 so far. They have Battle Garrega, which was the first one. The second one was Dangun Feverin, which was one of the first cave titles, and it's a lot of fun. It's disco themed.
Nice. I guess that's where the fever comes from.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Isn't the title would therefore be like Bullet Fever, I guess?
Yes, yeah. In fact, it's called like Fever SOS in the United States when it came over, which is kind of cool.
Shooting disco balls?
No, but
no, that would be Ratchet and Clank.
What's cool about that particular game is that when you shoot down enemy planes, they eject pilots that have like gigantic red afros.
Nice.
And you got to save them is one of the mechanics. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, Battle Garrega is known to be one of the most difficult shmups to understand out there. It's a spiritual predecessor to another cave game called Ibarra, and then Pink Sweets is the sequel to that. So anyway, it's very arcane. The better that you do, the harder the game gets. So it actually behooves you to be middle of the road at it. It kind of encourages you to suicide at strategic moments, so the game doesn't get harder at them.
I was just about to ask, like, how do you be middle on the road? So you just said, take deaths, but could you also try just not killing enemies, even though that'll fill your screen?
Okay, so yeah, you're catching on. So there is an invisible ranking system going on in this game that was previously indecipherable. There were people that were guessing at how the game worked, but it's a game that functions unlike any other than maybe Ibarra. So essentially what happens is the game throws a lot of collectibles and power-ups at you, and most of the time you do not want to pick them up. You actually want to avoid them as much as you're avoiding the bullets. I know it sounds funny, but that you don't play this game like any normal way, because if you were playing this like a very good shmup player would play any other shmup, you will die very quickly, and die for good. So what this game does is it actually has a visible widget that tells you what your ranking is and where it is currently. So you can lower and raise and lower your ranking strategically. So that's very essential. It also has it also made the bullets more visible and easier to see, because in the original release, what the bullets were very realistic looking, meaning they were kind of gray and small, and bullet shaped, which isn't the norm in a shmup. In a shmup, they're usually brightly colored, so you could see them well. So they made them brightly colored in this version too. So it's easier to play, it's fairer to the player, and it also kind of teaches you how to play the game, when previously it was impenetrable. So what's cool about this is not only did this come to the US for the first time officially, except having to pay $300 for a Saturn import, and get that to run on your Saturn. This is all really good stuff, and includes all the different versions of the game. You could play the version of the game that has the weird, the terrible looking bullets, that kind of thing. But they decided to do a physical release for fans, and there's some really cool stuff for the value here. It includes the physical game on a disc, which Japan did not get, by the way. The limited edition of this in Japan comes with a code.
Wow.
So we actually have a better version than the Japanese release. a Sega Saturn inspired long box jewel case with tray card and booklet. So the game not only is coming physically, but it's coming in a US Sega Saturn style box.
Yeah, I like when they do things like that. I think I mentioned this a while back when they were doing this, but when they released the King of Fighters game, it came with a Neo Geo style big arcade shock box.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Comes in a box with gold trim and in a rosewood box.
Sekiro? That one?
But let's see here. Blu-ray disc. It also comes with a bonus Blu-ray disc featuring an in-depth, intensive documentary about the revered Japanese developer M2 from as made by My Life in Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get that in full HD as well as some special features on there that you wouldn't get from the online version, which is really cool. They interviewed M2 and really made a nice documentary. It's not out yet, but there's a really good trailer out there, which informs me that it will be really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they go in depth and talk about everything that they've done up until this point, which includes their original release, which was Gauntlet 4 on the Genesis.
Wow.
Really interesting stuff. Yeah. It comes with a metal pin, so that's cool. 5 postcards, CD soundtrack, 2 LP vinyl soundtrack, original arcade poster recreation. That's really neat.
Yeah, that's definitely cool.
Arcade operator's manual recreation. I think that's really cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Arcade flyer recreation. So wow, that's all of basically recreations of all the original materials they used to sell this in Japan when it originally came out in the arcades, and individually numbered. So that's really cool. I was lucky enough to, unfortunately, they ran out super quick. I was able to get one of these luckily, but they sold out within minutes. Which tends to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, for limited run releases, that usually is how it works.
But if I've noticed that if you are on time for the opening of the pre-order, you could usually get to it. You could usually get it.
Yeah, you really do have to be sitting right there, but if you are, you're probably good.
Yeah, I've noticed it's not as bad as like Ticketmaster, where it's like a whole crapshoot, of whether you'll get it or not.
Like, I've never missed something that I was on time for.
Yeah, so this is
Honestly,
good.
Honestly, I wouldn't if I would want a game first, I would just want a game. I wouldn't want feelies for it.
Well, this is the collector's edition. Usually they have a standard edition as well, which is just a game in the box.
I would just say, I wouldn't stand in line for it.
I gotcha. Well, they do have a standard release that was only $40, which is good, which comes in a regular Blu-ray box, and is standard. I still think this is really cool, but if I'm going to go for a physical version of the game, I'm going to go all out, because I've already bought this game digitally, and the American version of it at that. So I really just... this is just something I really wanted, because it's like the genre that I like, made by people that I love. So the other two games...
With a game mechanic similar to God Hand.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. The game does get harder. Yeah.
It had a difficulty increase as well, if I remember.
Yeah, Lotus is our resident God Hand expert. Do you remember how that worked?
Well, yeah, you had a little meter, and this was very obvious, but the better you did at dodging opponents' attacks and hitting them without being hit yourself, you would have a bar or a meter on the lower left of the screen that would raise, and when you leveled up, you'd hear cheering, and this could go up from level 1, level 2, level 3, up to level die, where the higher the level of difficulty, the faster enemies get. I forgot if they hit harder, but they certainly move faster. If you get hit and just get knocked on your ass, then you hear... I forgot if it was boos or sounds of disappointment, but your meter goes down, and you might
jeering
actually...
at least.
Yeah, you might actually want that, because it lowers the difficulty. If you play God Hand on... I think it's easy mode, then you can only go up to level 2. Normal mode takes you up to level die, and hard mode, I think you're trapped on level die.
Oh, wow.
I mean, now the thing is, with the higher difficulties, you get more monetary rewards. Like, it tallies up how many enemies you killed on which level of difficulty. So, if you play on hard mode, you're going to get the max reward every single time. But, it's harder.
Yeah. Well, this is really cool. It's a really good precedent that they started on this series. It's called their M2's Shot Trigger series. The other two titles, other than Dangan Fever and Battle Garrega, are a game called Sorcerer Striker, which never, I don't think, got a proper home release. So that is Japan only at the moment. It's not even available digitally in America. And Ketsui, Destiny, which I talked about that. And I did not mispronounce it. It's literally called Ketsui Destiny.
Yeah, that's like Darksiders, like the definitive edition. Like,
yeah, exactly. But some people were calling it Death Tiny, not realizing what they were getting at.
Yeah.
But no, it's Destiny, like Destiny, but with death in it. Those two have not been released in English as part of that series. Ketsui is available in English otherwise from the PS3, but I think, but it's been released before at any rate. So I'm hoping that the other two come to the United States, number one, and number two, we get really nice physical editions, because it's coming with LPs and stuff, and I'm really digging that. That's really neat. Let's move on here to the next one. This was a surprise. This wasn't announced at all. Ninja Gaiden, the arcade version, was released on Switch.
That's pretty cool. I didn't even realize that there was an arcade version.
Sure you do. You recognize the most iconic continue screen of all time.
Well, sure, but I mean, I recognize that was on the Nintendo as well, wasn't it?
No, it was not.
Oh,
that is actually only from the arcade version.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
The one with the saw blade?
Yes, correct. Yeah. It is quite possibly the best continue screen of all time, other than maybe... Final Fights is really good, but I still think it's this one's better.
I kind of like Double Dragon Neons because it's so stupid. Have you seen that one?
I remember that, I think. Yeah,
Which one is...
He's about to poke them in the eye, right?
Yeah, with the Three Stooges eye poke. But the best part is if you press start to continue, then your other brother jumps in front and blocks
does,
with
his... the Three Stooges thing?
Yeah, like the vertical, like his hand is like... His fingers are up like a karate chop, and he like blocks by going between the poke fingers. It's such a Three Stooges thing to do.
That's probably the best beat 'em up of all time.
But the best part is as you wait for the countdown, Skullmageddon's putting his fingers closer, but he's like wiggling them like, I'm gonna do it. Like, it's so obnoxious.
I might go out on a limb and say that Double Dragon Neon is probably the best beat 'em up of all time.
It's way out there.
It's really close.
Being self-aware in this regard is kind of do the positive thing on it.
I do still love Streets of Rage 2, although I will admit the baseball stadium level kind of drags.
Yeah, I love Streets of Rage 2. Final Fight, the original Final Fight's really great. Final Fight 3 is really good too. They're and a lot of the other modern ones, Dragon's Crown is really great. Castle Crashers and other ones like that. The Dungeons and Dragons ones are really good.
Turtles in Time on SNES.
Yeah, those are all really great, but I think that just like with the modern refinements of that game and the humor, are put it over the top for me.
I just what really got me was when we first played it, because you'd played it before, but you never played it multiplayer, so I came over and we played for a little bit.
It's way better multiplayer.
But the funny thing was, we didn't start a 2-player game. You were in the middle of level 1 or something, so you're playing as Billy, and then I pressed start to jump in. So you know how the character like leaps in. Jimmy just jumps in and he goes, "And Jimmy." It's like, nice. It's so good.
Yeah, their banter is like one of the best things about it. So anyway, this game...
And the fact that the main bad guy is just straight up being Skeletor.
Yeah, he has the same voice too. Yeah.
Ow, my
Bon
fibula.
voyage. I love that. But anyway, Ninja Gaiden is on the Switch now. Now, this is the first Ninja Gaiden game ever released. The Nintendo game is much different. This is more of a straight up beat 'em up. I will tell you that it has some really cool looking graphics, but it is very stiff. Basically, it's a very early beat 'em up. In the vein of the original Double Dragon. So your character moves very slowly. It's kind of cool looking. Like the guys that you're beating up, the regular mooks are like Jason ripoffs, which is kind of cool.
Actually, here's a question: how slowly are you moving? Because are we talking Revenge of Shinobi slowly? That's
it's
slow.
sluggish. It's sluggish.
Right.
It's noticeably sluggish.
One that isn't Ninja Gaiden was a platformer and less of a
on the NES, I suppose.
On the NES, correct. But this is a beat 'em up. This is an isometric beat 'em up, just like Final Fight would be.
Well, that's not isometric.
Sure, it is. You move up and down the plane isometrically.
Oh, I get. Well, okay, fair enough. When I picture isometric, I picture like Fallout 1. Yeah.
Well, I'm basically
tilted
I'm drawing a distinction between the single plane and double plane beat 'em ups from before then, kind of like Shinobi, the original Shinobi, or Rolling Thunder is like a single plane game.
Yeah, or this is a fighting game, but Fatal Fury, where you're foreground, background.
Correct. So those are double plane games as well. So it is iconic and it is fun if you have the right temperament about it, but do not go in expecting something better than even the original Double Dragon's probably better, it's just not as gonna be as good as Final Fight. Final Fight is really where beat 'em ups get really good.
Oh, actually, one thing I heard about Ninja Gaiden, the arcade game, is that apparently it got I think it was still a Revenge of Shinobi treatment, where how the original release of the Revenge of Shinobi had what was it, like Hulk and Spider-Man or some ridiculous bullshit, and they eventually patched it to just have a big guy and they weren't the actual comic book characters anymore. Well, Ninja Gaiden had, I think, one track cut or changed or something because it was way too close to Iron Man, like that.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't sound exactly like that, but it is way too close.
I mean that tracks. I mean, what is it? Rainbow Islands has a song that sounds just like Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I mean, all kinds of games are made. But
you can look it up on YouTube anytime. Look up Ninja Gaiden. I think it's called I Am a Man or something. Even the title's a little too close.
Great.
It's way too close to Iron Man. There's no way you would not get through for this today.
Like Black Sabbath songs in Rock and Roll Racing.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
Again, way too close for comfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't way too close, but that was it.
Yeah.
Well, this is also sort of a rarity. There's only been one port of this game, and it was one official port of it, and you can actually play it on a current console, believe it or not. It's actually on Ninja Gaiden Black for the original Xbox. That's
Nice.
actually one of the backwards compatible games on the Xbox One. But still, this is stripped down. It's not in another game hidden somewhere, so this is a good way to play it if you're curious and want to know about the history of Ninja Gaiden, which is pretty cool. And let's see here. You have Tetris 99 got a single player mode, which is really neat.
That's really cool because a lot of people were loving the mode that it already had.
Yeah,
Battle Royale thing.
This is a really neat single player mode. It simulates the Battle Royale mode. But with computer players, which is pretty neat.
Computer players.
Yep.
That's cool though. Great way to practice.
It's $10 DLC on a free game, so not bad at all.
Yeah, $10 for all of that. Okay.
Yeah, and they add other features too, which is pretty cool.
Honestly, in Tetris Fights, I still would like to find that one game I'm looking everywhere for called Drax or Drac. I don't know what the complete name. That it was a very interesting game because it had like every piece you follow. It wasn't just the shapes, but it had various elements. Like some tiles you put down are made from balls and they roll all over the place.
Oh, nice.
Sometimes they were like made from blocks that would not rigid. Like if you place one over the ledge, the parts that over the ledge fall down.
Oh,
or when
okay.
placed down, one place down, they automatically slide it completely left or right.
That sounds clever.
Really interesting.
And there was lots of little interactions, but yeah, I don't know where that game is from, and I can't seem to find it.
That's okay. I'll do some searching around and see what I can bring up, because I'm pretty good at it. There's a thread there's a subreddit on Reddit called Tip of My Joystick, where I go in
that's what I was gonna mention. Yeah.
And I help out there pretty well.
Okay.
When there's something obscure.
Yeah, same. It's really fun to try to do that. I've gotten a few, but it comes from a larger group called TOMT, like Tip of My Tongue. Like I can't quite put my finger on it. I could describe it in such a way. So Tip of My Joystick is specifically for games.
Yep.
I know a couple of threads like this, but yeah, that if you would find it, it would be fun.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm always into like arcade style games anyway, so that'll be.
It was an old DOS game based.
Yeah, but it's arcade style. It's a quick play kind of game, right?
Maybe, I don't know. You have to judge it yourself. I don't know how quick it would be.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a level based game.
All right, gotcha. All right, let's see here. What else do we have? Oh, so the next thing I wanted to bring up was, of course, the Final Fantasy VII Remake teaser. Do either of you watch this?
Nope.
I'm not a Final Fantasy fan, so I don't have connection to it. But I heard there was some rambling about it. Some people didn't like it too much because, meh.
I mean, really though, what it ultimately is going to come down to is it doesn't look literally exactly like the game I played when I was a kid. Like, sorry, it's a different game. It's like Resident Evil 2's remake doesn't have fixed camera angles and it doesn't have polygons. Like, it's a different thing. Fucking deal
I think
with it.
It elicits a lot of the same feelings. Like I've been looking at it, and I mean, they get the tone right. Which is something really great. Looks like they have a lot more. It looks like almost like Crisis Core's gameplay, which is like semi-action oriented. Which is what I expected. And it looks good. I mean, I'm mostly happy that it exists.
I know it's been like.
It's cool.
How many years has it been? It's been a lot.
It's been over. I think they announced it way back before Final Fantasy 15 was Final Fantasy 15.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
When they had announced the Fabula Nova Crystallis series, which was the what 13 and 15 turned into. Or what turned into 13 and 15. A lot of people were saying that they haven't revealed Tifa yet, was one of the things that people were commenting on. I mean, they haven't revealed all the other characters too, so it's still pretty cool looking. I mean, Final Fantasy is far from Final Fantasy VII is far from the thing that meant the most to me during that period of my life. But I'm glad that they're modernizing it, because like really the story was stylish, so people liked it because it was stylish. But right now nowadays, with the way that we have narrative components, and it's a much more mature medium, it doesn't hold up as much. If you go back and you play it, you go, there's a lot of plot holes here, and a lot of stuff doesn't make sense. So I think hopefully they'll remedy that part of it, that unfortunate part of it. So
just wanted to say that someone commented on Final Fantasy. I think it was 13. Was the 3-parter?
Yes.
Just wanted, like, people said, like, okay, that was it. Like Final Fantasy VII was like you exit the city and you thought the city will be the whole thing, and then the game opens up and like, hey, hello, enjoy the world.
It's actually kind of funny because I actually like Midgar the best. That's when I think the game was its strongest. I actually would have been happier if it was all taking place within Midgar. I'm in the minority with that. A lot of people love it when the game opens up and becomes like an older Final Fantasy game. But I guess like different strokes for different folks.
Well,
I just
this
love
was
that.
also a product of its time. Like the first area of a game is often the best because it was like worked on the longest. But like this was, like I bet you didn't think a game that looks like this could open up into a larger thing. Like whether you actually like that part or not, it was still a spectacle for its existence at the time. It's like Shadow of the Colossus. When you play the remake today, you're like, that was a cool game. But on the PS2, you didn't know that games like that could exist.
Yeah, that's true. They had to employ all kinds of trickery in order to even get it to work.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's pretty cool that that they were even able to do it. You know, on a system that was so limited. But
limitation brings up creativity.
Yep.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And but it looks good to me. I mean, I'm reserving judgment, of course, until it comes out, but I'm sure it'll be fun. Especially with a game that's been worked on this long. I'm sure a bunch of people will be complaining about it, inevitably, but I think it's
Will be another Dark Souls copycat.
It'll be fine. I think it'll
that would be the
okay.
funniest thing. Like the last thing you get before the game comes out is like you see Square Enix, and then below it another company name appears, like From
Goya.
Software. Everyone's like, "Oh fuck, I'm not prepared for this."
Square Enix Goya.
Yeah, Square Enix, Goya. Like, oh,
Goya is a food manufacturer, right? Because I
Yes.
never clearly got that.
no, well that's just why it's funny. Like in Shut Up and Jam Gaiden,
Yes,
like
I understand
those
the
were the
joke, but I
companies who
never-
survived everything, like Square Enix and Goya. Like, all right,
Like the
It's not
Mexican
it's the
food
survived.
manufacturer is what still is left after the.
yeah, it's like in Demolition Man,
chaos
like
dunk.
the franchise wars. Like Taco Bell was the winner. Like,
think it
okay,
wasn't-
like,
I think the joke was that it wasn't that those survived, but those were the mergers.
well, pretty much. It's like those were the biggest things that formed the biggest company, and they also have nothing to do with each other. Like, how does this exist? Like, that's why it's just absurd.
Well, look at Ubisoft and Doritos and what have you. What was that? Mountain Dew.
Well, that's a promotion. That's not the companies merging. Like it was
Wait for
like
it.
for Red Dead Redemption. I never knew about this until I saw Cheap Ass Gamer tweet it out. But apparently, Rockstar did a thing with some expensive, like fashionable, like scented candle maker. It's like what? All right.
Really? like any gamer would really care about that.
That's the thing. It's like it was like when Xbox revealed the Kinect with Cirque du Soleil. It's like we
Okay.
that's like I mean that's cool that you got them, but what? So like I mean it was really funny because when Cheap Ass Gamer tweeted that out, they're like here this is like this candle you can get that's Red Dead Redemption 2 branded, and then the tweet continued to say, yes, this is a real thing that happened. Yes, this is the discounted price because it was like $35, and people were like, what? It was pretty entertaining.
Mind you, scented candles can be nice.
Oh no,
Oh.
they certainly can, but it's just like what?
Well, I think it's cool. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
So another big thing that came up in actual national news, there is a senator who came up with a proposal to start legislating on loot boxes.
Yeah, so we're following, what was it, like Belgium's example?
Yeah, and this is
Belgium and Hawaii.
Okay.
Was it Hawaii?
That I don't
Yes.
remember, but either way, seriously, good for them, because we need to crack down on this shit.
Yeah, so this
yeah.
is I will specifically say that they aren't asking to get rid of loot boxes totally, just to the sale of loot boxes to minors and targeting of
Well, no, for
of
real, because
loot
you
box-
have little kids who use, like, daddy's credit card account and spend, like, fucking, like, $500, and then it's like,
Yeah.
but it was only
I
$5 for
actually-
each thing I bought, or whatever.
It's a huge problem.
I mean, it
It's
literally
it's
is
a
gambling
really
in that
huge-
sense, where it's like, I mean, well, that's not what gambling means, but it's like just another quarter or whatever. It's like being in a casino is what I was trying to say.
Well, no,
Yes.
it is gambling to some extent. I mean, especially with
Well,
the way
loot
that
boxes
you
are.
get.
Loot boxes are. But
not
I was
some
thinking
ex-
microtransactions in general, like buying a skin. But loot boxes are gambling because you don't know what the result's going to be.
Correct.
Yes, it is not in a sense. It is gambling, and it is stimulating that specific part of your brain.
Yes.
Yeah, and these are really the vast majority of these are marketed towards teenagers and tweens. It's not like 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds like our group of people
Yeah.
who can restrain themselves for the most part from buying things like this. They could and we actually have the money for it. But this is really predatory towards people that really love. Like, there's a whole subculture of people that watch like these videos where they where people will open loot boxes. Like, they'll watch like famous YouTubers.
Well, it's like real life unboxing videos. Not that those are gambling, but it's just cool to see what you're gonna get.
They do this. They'll do it on stream, over Twitter and all that.
And
Old Man
these people
Stompy's told
get
me
nice money.
Yeah, and Old Man Stompy's told me that there are YouTube videos where a guy buys like a booster box of magic cards or whatever and just see what it's gonna get. Like, it's fun to watch, but it's costly and it's random.
Yeah, and not only that, but when they watch this kind of stuff, it makes them want to do it too.
Yeah, and not only that, but like I've heard, and this is not Epic's fault, but I have heard like that I forgot if it was like middle school or whatever, like some kids might get crap for using like the default skins in Fortnite and stuff like that because it's like you're being like a pleb, and it's like, fuck you, man, let me play my game,
Yeah,
but there's the pressure to buy, is what I'm saying.
It's like in Snow Crash where the people that have just like the generic cowboy avatar.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's like, why don't you get the cool stuff? It's because it fucking costs. That's why.
You scrub.
Yeah.
No, don't buy into this.
Well, you know what the funny thing is though.
Bullshit.
I mean, Dark Souls doesn't do loot boxes or gambling or anything, but like the funny thing is in Dark Souls, the real pro players are the ones who have like no costumes at all because they don't need costumes to beat your ass. They don't need armor. They'll just dodge and fucking counter your ass.
If somebody invades you and they are wearing a loincloth, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, and they have a shitty weapon, like, run.
Get the fuck out of there. They will destroy you.
Yeah.
I've seen this firsthand. I'm really like, oh, fuck
like
this guy.
Dark Souls 2, no costumes, the kitchen ladle, get out.
Yeah, this was like the one that I encountered was like wearing like the butcher sack on their head.
Oh,
and,
no!
Like, I was like, I need to get and also whatever the butcher thing is that they carry.
Well, you know what the funny thing
like
is?
The meat is it?
I think so. But you know what the funny thing is? In Dark Souls 1, did you ever summon the NPC to fight Quelaag in Blighttown?
Oh yeah.
Because that was the butcher.
She looks like that too.
Who has like no lore at all. It is just like, whoa.
It's the man-eater, right?
What?
Her name's like the man-eater.
Yeah, man-eater Mildred. And there's like zero lore on her, which makes her way creepier. Because it's just like, who is this?
You only know what her name is, and you believe her name.
Yep.
Whoa, oh, here she comes. Watch out, boy. She'll eat
anyway,
you up.
Back to loot boxes. I'm happy that they kind of starting to regulate this, because it also means that companies like EA getting more and more gut punches to remind themselves that they are a game company and not siphoning money off people company.
Yeah, and I think this is largely an apolitical issue. I think that both sides of the spectrum will be for this because it's protecting children. I don't see any.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, you are limiting access to something, but like it's not access to anything that is important, nor should everybody have access to it.
By the way, speaking of, I asked Lotus that is, and if we're talking about this. This topic kind of comes to mind. Did you watch the Game Dungeon video on what was it called? The game as live service as being a fraud?
No. Please elaborate.
It's a 1 hour long video dissecting the concept of this live service topic. And interestingly, that several YouTube lawyers sort of chimed in saying that they're not against the concept, but they slightly corrected it. That here's where you're wrong. Here's what you should do.
Yeah.
Here's what kind of solution you could have. I will link it out later on. All right.
For sure.
Like, I can't completely recall the 1 hour long video, but it's basically dissecting the concept that this kind of, the whole thing is that, like live service games, these are always online games.
Yeah.
You're getting these half-baked games like that, recently Anthem, and you get the game, but you don't own the game. And
yeah, I hate that.
You still paid for it, and the server
It also
can
says
go
you
offline.
bought it. Like when you're making a purchase, it is not explicitly saying that you are renting or buying a license.
Yeah.
Well, no,
it
but
is
like
saying you're buying it.
Yeah, but when it comes to like PlayStation Network and stuff like that, they do stipulate on the page that like you're allowed to download it up to like 3 times or whatever. So like after that, like you can't do it anymore. You have to rebuy it.
But what I'm trying to say here is that when you are making these purchases, they do not make it explicitly evident the limitations of it. You know what I mean?
For the services, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there might be some mile-long, 1,000-page. You click, I agree.
Yeah, but
like,
nobody
rules
reads
page.
that, and it's well understood that in court that people don't read those things because usually they contain reasonable language in them.
Yeah.
Which is like most people understand what they're agreeing to with those things. There's nothing funky in there that would be out of the ordinary, and in fact, it's illegal to put something like that. Contracts get thrown out if those user agreements include something that like is out of the ordinary.
Okay.
I took an ethics class, like a business ethics class, and they even commented on that kind of behavior.
When you had to
actually.
do an oral presentation on it, did you like totally freeze in front of everybody and then
Ethics.
say the thing about ethics, and then you pulled a gun on the whole audience?
I'm glad I called that guy.
Anyways, what I wanted to like the point Ross was making that if live services as a games, well, again, they can pull the plug.
Yeah.
And like games are a form of art and a form of entertainment.
Sure.
And if they remove the servers and pull the plug on a game, that game is gone.
Yeah.
And that these companies do not allow. Just don't give out the servers and the code for these games. It just disappears. It's just gone.
Yep.
And this is what they want to prevent.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure.
Like archiving games and such for future endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, this one is this one's near and dear to Lotus in my heart. Blood Fresh Supply was put on modern services.
Well, kind of. Blood, I'm interested in that game on principle, but I've only played a little bit of it. It just looked really interesting. What I remember is that it was difficult.
I played through the whole game, and
Nice.
I have one of the expansion packs. I think was it the plasma pack? I think.
That's
One Pint Whole Blood.
I like that name. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 pint Whole Blood, I think is what it's called.
What I'm thinking about, like, this is just a version that works on the Windows, right?
Yeah, there's nothing super out of the ordinary other than modern conveniences. So,
Well, that's what I was going to say, is Blood has been available on Steam and GOG for years, but this is, it's called Fresh Supply, like they freshened it up.
So basically what they did was they did engine enhancements and little else, but that's okay because it makes the old game look good.
Yeah.
So there's anti-aliasing, ambient occlusion, and VSync, and high resolutions up to 4K. Those are the main things, and also like modern conveniences like pad support, gamepad support, modding, netcode, working netcode for up to 8 players, split screen, local split
that's crazy.
Split screen for couch co-op, which is neat. And you could also roll your own soundtrack with full CD and MIDI music support. That's pretty cool.
What?
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean,
Although
this is a
honestly,
build
if
engine
I'm-
game. With build engine was Duke Nukem 3D, right?
Yep. Duke Nukem, Redneck Rampage, Blood, and Shadow Warrior.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a classic. It had a lot of pop culture references, including stuff from The Shining and things like that. Those were like the most
It
notable
was
things.
mostly horror-based
Yeah,
references.
that would make sense.
exactly.
Considering the theme of the game.
It also had like a very tongue-in-cheek, dark style humor.
Tongue out of cheek because it's been severed out of the throat.
Yeah. But this is a fun game. I mean, especially if you like Duke Nukem 3D, this is just another, basically skin of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very satisfying. It's probably one of the very most satisfying old school shooters because enemies die violently, and it is fun.
And the weapon types are fun to use.
Yes, and it's one of the first games that stays away from the classic, like you start with a pistol.
Yeah.
No, you start with a flare gun, which is not exactly work like a pistol.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, the weapon types were actually very notable. It had things like flamethrowers. Probably my favorite thing is throwing the dynamite, which is that was a lot of fun in this game. And also magic later on, and pitchfork was the melee weapon. Yeah,
Nice.
It was actually pretty effective.
Honestly, the best weapon is the napalm cannon. It's possibly the best rocket launcher out there.
Damn.
Yeah. This game was a lot of fun, so I would definitely pick it up. It's not expensive. It's $10 for a modernized version of this game, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a blast. If you like old school style shooters, and you want to get like a little bit more out of it, and maybe even just pick up an original, a classic that you remember from your childhood or whatever, this is a good one.
It had Stafford Waite.
What's that?
It had Stafford Waite in it, who was Caleb's voice actor.
Gotcha.
Honestly, I would like to see sort of a refurbished version, like how Flying Wild Hog made the remake of Shadow Warrior.
Oh, like a total revamp.
Oh yeah. That would be a lot of fun.
Like
Rise of the Triad did that too, right?
Yeah, they did.
What?
I could see a brand new Blood game being terrifying.
Well, if anything else, there is still Iron Maiden.
That's true.
And I think 3D Realms making Wrath Eon of Ruin as well, which looks pretty cool.
Neat. Let's see here. There's a couple of announcements here that Lotus wanted to go over, I think.
Nah. I mean, all right. So yeah, you were talking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake teaser. Has anybody seen the teaser for It, the movie, Chapter 2?
Oh, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm excited to see the teaser.
Yeah, I would say the teaser, mostly I found very satisfying. At the very end of the teaser, it shows you a bunch of flashes of different parts of the movie, but the main thing was a couple of minutes of really the one part of the movie that I really, really wanted to see how they would handle it. So I'm pretty happy that that's the scene they showed. You probably know the one I'm talking about. It was when Beverly goes back to her dad's place, and an old lady answers the door. Turns out her dad's not there anymore, and Beverly looks at the nameplate on the door, and the name is not Marsh, it's Kirsch. Like, oh, crap, sorry. And the old lady's like, nah, it's cool, come in. So you don't actually see that part. The teaser starts when Beverly's already in there, and they're just chatting with T. But the more the video goes on for, the more you realize something is wrong, and it makes things nice and uncomfortable. The only thing I would have a complaint about, I think my complaint would have held more weight if this was the first movie, but it's not. It's keeping up with the theme of the first movie, so I'm not going to say, oh, they should change this. It's more like I wish they changed it from the beginning. but the trailer concludes with not a jump scare, but still kind of like an it's coming, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I wish they'd stop doing that. Like, that's not really what Pennywise was about.
It's just a horror movie trope, so
I know,
they
but
kind of
like,
have to do it.
I really wish they just kept up with the this is uncomfortable and making me nervous, because the whole rest of the teaser did a damn good job about that. Like, because it really is this sweet old lady, and Beverly was talking about, I think, like, her dad died or something, and the old lady goes, oh, well, you know what they say, the people who die in this town never really die. And then she smiles, and like 7 to 10 seconds go by where she's just frozen, like, smiling at Beverly, and it's like, it's really uncomfortable. Like this is a weird thing to bring up, but have you seen Eraserhead?
I've seen parts.
Okay, I don't know if this will mean anything to you then, but there's a part way early in the movie where the main character talks to his girlfriend's parents, and the dad also does something like that, where he just smiles at him, and he holds that pose for way too long. He's just, like, frozen that way.
Ugh,
and then eventually he just kind of goes back to talking, and you're like, what the fuck was that? So, like, the old lady does the same thing. She just holds the pose, and it's not even a creepy smile she's doing. It's just the fact that she's holding it for, like, 7 seconds. And then she just resumes, and you're like, that was uncomfortable. And, like, nothing
like, almost as if she was, like, a computer that, like, lost what it was trying to do, right?
I mean, like, to that, like, that is what a glitchy computer would have done, yes, but, like, she was just kind of holding that face. And then she just resumes. And it's just like, nothing even came of it, which is what made it work. You're just like, that was creepy. Like, remember in the first chapter of it, the first movie, where I forgot which kid it was, but he was doing research in the library, and you know what culminates with him going in the basement getting chased?
The chubby kid.
Yeah, okay, so that would be Ben, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So he's doing research in the library. I don't know if you noticed this, because the movie does not make a point of it, but he's looking at the book. The camera shows a close-up of the picture he's looking at. Then it cuts to, like, a shot of the whole library where you could see him in the foreground, and there's, like, a couple of library patrons in tables behind him, and you see the old lady librarian, like, in the back doing whatever she's doing. Cuts back to him, cuts back to the book, cuts back to the wide shot of the library, and the old lady librarian is, like,
staring at him.
Halfway closer to the camera, just kind of staring at him. Cut back to the book, cut back to the wide shot. She's kind of getting up behind him, and she's smiling, and nothing comes of that, and it's creepy as shit if you see it. It's like nothing even happens, but it's really uncomfortable. So, like, the old lady holding that smile, they did make a point of focusing on it, but you're just like, what's gonna happen? And nothing happens. It's so good.
Well, I really loved it when I saw when I went to go see it. So I mean,
I like the movie too. Just way too many jump scares, but it was a fun movie, and it was obviously better than the TV movie.
what I was gonna say is it's probably one of the best like Stephen King horror adaptations. Most of his horror movies have like okay movies. Like, there's some notable exceptions. I mean, Shining is a classic. You know,
well, The Shining is a brilliant horror movie, but it's a terrible adaptation.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like,
Kubrick improved it, I think.
Yeah, you could argue that.
Yeah, you could. That's also one of Stephen King's, like, earliest books. I think it's his second or third book. I think it's his third.
His first was like Carrie, wasn't it?
No, his first is straight up The Stand.
His first book ever.
Yes.
No way. It couldn't have been. That's like an epic.
The Stand is very early on.
It is.
Maybe it is Carrie. But anyway.
I don't know if I'm necessarily right about Carrie, but there's no way it was The Stand. Like, it can't be. That's way too epic for, like, his first book.
I don't know. It's one of the very early.
It was Carrie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Carrie.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is it's one of his earliest.
Yes, The Stand is like the 80s, maybe.
No, it's 78.
Damn. Okay.
It's very, very fucking early.
Wow.
It's one of his first book and also his best.
Well, that was the thing. I remember. I have no idea which book it was, but I remember in one of the author's notes, Stephen King noted that a lot of people come to him and say, "Oh my God, The Stand, like best book you've ever done," and he's like, I
wrote that
appreciate
when I
the
was a
compliment, but it's like 25 years later, and like that's still my best book. Like, okay, thanks, I guess. It's just kind of funny.
I write 2 books a year.
I know, I've published 1,000 fucking books, and you're saying the best one I did was like 30 years ago. Like, all right, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, I think he wrote The Stand right after The Gunslinger.
Oh wow, okay.
The original Dark Tower book. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I can't believe that also another one of like the start of like one of the greatest things he's ever produced was like that early.
yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
but what I'm trying to say is his horror books have very like Shawshank Redemption is considered one of the best movies ever made of all time.
Yeah, but not horror.
It's not a horror book. It's
Same
not
with
a
The
horror
Green
story.
Mile.
And same thing with The Green Mile, and same thing with Stand By Me. Those are all excellent, like timeless classic movies. But they weren't his horror.
His
stories.
horror stuff often seems to be lower budget too. Like Silver Bullet looked like it was very like just filmed in some local town or something. You know,
Lawnmower Man.
The Lawnmower. I don't know what was happening with the Lawnmower Man at all. That wasn't even like that.
He sued to
had
get his name
almost nothing to
removed from
do with the short story except that there was a lawnmower in it. Like there was that was not even close.
Yeah, The Shining was his 3rd book, right before The Stand.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Lawnmower Man was just, I don't know what that it was even supposed to be because it had nothing to do with the Lawnmower Man.
The Fog was very good.
I have not seen that.
The
one.
Mist. I meant The Mist.
The Mist was very good.
Yeah, that's
that
what I
was
meant.
made. I heard wasn't that filmed with like a TV crew that was filmed to be like an old sort of like a modern version of like a 1950s sci-fi horror movie.
I don't know, but I think it was the same director as Shawshank Redemption, so that
Nice.
that stands for its quality.
I might be wrong about this, but I heard it might have been filmed with a crew that was used to filming TV shows, which is why certain like angles will like just the editing will feel different from how a movie feels, which is kind of interesting.
I know that the Salem's Lot movie is apparently really good, or the miniseries. It's a television miniseries. Apparently, that's really good, despite it being a miniseries from 1979.
Speaking of the miniseries, I actually quite liked Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which was just a bunch of different short stories. That was a TV series.
Oh yeah, that's great.
That was pretty fun.
What were you about to say?
What I wanted to ask is the Tommyknockers was Stephen King, was Clive Barker?
That was Stephen King. I heard that was goofy though.
What was it?
Tommyknockers.
Tommyknockers.
Oh yeah, that was goofy. I saw that when it had originally aired.
Yeah, and there was like the Langoliers, which
was
the acting was pretty like hammy, but like it
special
felt like
effects,
well, I was gonna say it felt like okay TV movie until you actually see the Langoliers and you're like oh
yeah.
I actually kind of like the way they looked, but it's clearly like old dated CG even by the time.
Yeah, even at the time it looked bad.
Scary regardless.
Well, the concept is scary, but it just looked weird when you see it on camera. But anyway, long story short, too late. The teaser for it looked really freaking cool, so I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I'm glad that they have such a great cast, not only for the children but like for the adults too.
Yeah.
I mean, they have such a great medley of like really great people.
Yes,
which is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the final encounter is going to be a stop motion puppet again? That they just push over?
Well, here's what I'm gonna think it's gonna be like, because in the original story it's just a spider, a gigantic spider, right?
Yeah.
I think what they're going to do is, since Pennywise is so iconic, they're going to have the spider have Pennywise's face or some kind of morph of it. I bet you it'll be like that.
I hope they don't. Well, actually, there are two things that I'm interested in. One, the spider cave. I bet you that whole thing is shot way different, because in the book, you couldn't see shit. Like, it was black in there. And the thing that made it really creepy was that it had apparently laid like 1 million eggs. So there was a whole thing where the kids stomp on all the eggs, but they have no flashlights. So eventually they're like, I think that's all of them. And it's kind of uncomfortable. But one thing I really want to see, and it's such a little thing, but there's one scene that just creeps one of the kids out where I forgot if it was a kid or an adult, but where he was outside and the wind is blowing at his back at like 1 million miles an hour. It's like a brutally windy day. And he sees one of Pennywise's balloons like slowly floating toward him, but like against the wind, and that's just creepy by itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
One other thing that was in the books, but I almost don't want to see in the movie because it'll look like a bad edit, even though it's not, is do you remember what Pennywise would be like when he would disappear?
He just pops.
Yeah,
like a balloon, right?
like you know in those old movies where they badly edit someone to disappear, it's just like he's just gone the next frame. Pennywise actually did that.
He just pops out of existence with a sound that
yeah, you would hear a
pops
pop because it's the air filling the space he used to take up. So he would literally just blink out like a bad old TV movie. And so if you saw it in the new movie, you'd be like, what the fuck? But that's actually book accurate. But yeah, that's I am excited though.
But could you imagine seeing that in real life? That would be fucked up. Seeing somebody just like pop out of existence.
You would the double take on there. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, was that real just now? Like, actually, that was one thing I really, really liked about the TV movie, the old movie in the 90s, when Seth Green goes into the school's basement and he sees the Teen Wolf just sitting there, and he looks at him and he goes, "You're not real." And then the Teen Wolf starts approaching, and he's like, "Whoop!" And he just like gets the fuck out. It was fantastic. I don't think he's real, but he is right there. I don't want to chance this.
No. Well, we should move on so we can finish up here. You have one more thing you wanted to talk about,
just
correct?
one update. We had talked a couple of weeks ago about how there's a Kickstarter for the Bloodborne board game. When this podcast goes up, I think the Kickstarter will be over or nearly over. But I have to admit, I was a little nervous when the Kickstarter was first launched because the board game had, I think, like 3 bosses: the Cleric Beast, Father Gascoigne, and Vicar Amelia, and they're cool. But those are early game bosses. Like,
and you 2 of them are humanoid.
You have one, obviously. The others depends how far you're willing to stretch that. But the thing is, though, those are early game bosses. Like, you haven't even really learned what Insight is for by that point. Like, that's it. But it turns out that, like the Steamforged Kickstarter, they released stretch goals, which had later monsters, and they also released optional expansions you can buy, which cover way more of the game. So that was something of a relief, because it's like, finally, Bloodborne, the board game, and it's only like 2 hours worth of Bloodborne. It's like, but there's a lot more where that came from, so I'm pleased about that. That's pretty much all I really wanted to say.
Yeah, I might get in on that before it's too late.
Yeah.
Like with the Dark Souls board game, I didn't realize like all those stretch goal things were going to be not available.
There's a bunch of things where they'll mark it as Kickstarter exclusive. The stretch goals I think are free, but there are lots of optional sets that you can buy as well.
Sure. Well, now's the time to get in on it. If this is something
again, by the
enjoy.
time you hear it, it will either be too late or you got to jump on it right now. It's really getting there.
Yeah,
there might be like a day or something, but we'll see.
Well, I also wanted to quickly mention these are quick things. Rage 2 is now out, which I'm actually pretty excited about. So Rage was very much an underrated game. I think time has been more kind to it, but when it was released, most people didn't like it or give it the attention it deserved.
Oh, that got discounted so fast in the stores.
Yeah.
What I heard, it was kind of mediocre and spread itself a little bit too thin.
Yeah, but if you actually played it, there was some actual fun to be had there. It wasn't a terrible game; it just had its faults. Let's put it that way. So apparently, the new one has very good buzz surrounding it, so I'm actually really excited. Especially,
you could say it's all the rage.
Well, especially considering that Bethesda's been doing really well with the Wolfenstein games and
Doom 2016
and Prey and Doom 2016. Doom 2016 is a contender for like one of the best games of all time.
Until Doom Eternal comes out.
Well,
I mean, hyped.
I hope it's only even half as good as the original, because
my thing is I have been waiting for Hell on Earth done modern style, like not literally Doom 2, that's Doom 2 Hell on Earth, but I've been waiting for Hell on Earth, a modern interpretation, for over a decade. Doom 3 came out, and it was basically a remake of Doom 1, and I'm like, oh man, that means Doom 2 is coming. Like, it's gotta be. And I'm waiting, and Doom 2016 was fucking incredible, but it still wasn't hell on earth. And I'm like, you gotta do it sometime. It looks like Doom Eternal might finally do that.
Yeah.
I don't know which one of you've seen the QuakeCon sort of show.
Nah, I don't really follow the QuakeCon stuff.
That was where they showed off Doom Eternal, just because.
Okay, well, yeah, they would,
I'm
because,
asking
like, yeah, id.
Yeah, so one of them mentioned, like one of the devs mentioned that they're planning a sort of a whole world for Doom, like a sort of, how to put it, like they want to create a Doom world.
Okay.
So probably even more games coming out.
Hey, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, even in the
Especially-
90s, like,
I'm
100 Doom games came out, like Doom 1, Doom 2, Final Doom, which was 2 episodes by itself. Like, all right.
Yeah,
Custom,
I mean,
custom what's galore.
Oh my god, yeah, imagine.
I just love the structure of
Combat.
Doom 2016 was what made it so good.
Yeah.
I mean, like what I had just so much fun leveling everything up and
Yup.
like trying to find all the stuff, and it's just
It
a
was
blast to
hyper-dynamic.
play. It's just so good. Like probably one of the best remakes of all time, or reboots, or whatever you want to like. Just
Yeah,
so
reboot.
good.
Well, honestly, like the first they've made kind of this Call of Duty like is a game where you fight demons on Earth with the Defense Force, and I'm fairly sure that one of the developers looked at Brutal Doom, turned around, looked at their own products, like, okay, we're remaking the whole thing like that.
No, 100%. I've said in the past that I think they took major inspiration from Brutal Doom, and I don't think I'm wrong. And I don't think you're wrong either. I think that very much inspired the design of Doom 2016. But at any rate, Rage 2, I hope it does well, because I don't know, I like these id style games that they keep putting out, so I hope it does well. The last thing I was going to mention is that Detective Pikachu came out last week, last Thursday, I believe, and it is already breaking records for video game adaptations.
Yeah, well, and this one makes sense too, because when the Mario Brothers movie came out, when the Mortal Kombat movie came out, we were like 10 or whatever, but now we're like 25, 30, 35. We've had like almost literally a lifetime of Pokemon, whether we actually played the games or not. And finally, it's like Gen 1, we're keeping it to the original stuff, a mature take, but not like edgy, like the Mario Brothers movie where it's all grimdark before we knew what the term grimdark meant. And it's Ryan Reynolds who's gotten a lot of popularity with us. It's like, you know what? Like, even I stopped caring about Pokemon like 15, 20 years ago, but like I kind of want to see this. Like that's a lot of, I don't know, like that's a lot of gripping power.
Yeah, especially to get you to want to see it, and you don't even want to see the Marvel movies. Well,
the Marvel movies are all good, but just I'm fucking burned out. But like the Pokemon, the Detective Pikachu, there's one fucking movie, and the thing is, like, I'm not gonna like run out and see it, but if anyone asks me to go, like, I'll go.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm the same way. Actually, my girlfriend wants to go see it, and she's not a video gamer in the slightest. She'll play like some casual stuff, like play Mario Kart when everybody else is over, and play Mario Kart with you.
Yeah, but that's how Pokemon gets you. You don't even have to be a gamer to like it.
Yeah.
It was a cartoon that we grew up with for like, again, 30 years. It's been here the whole time, and it still is here.
She likes how cute it looks, and it certainly does look cute. And she's a Ryan Reynolds fan. She loved Deadpool. It's a perfect storm of things. I mean, there are Ryan Reynolds fans that want to see this. There are kids that want to see this for the new Pokemon fans, right?
Oh, you know what I heard, by the way? Apparently, when you go see the movie, just like Pokemon, the first 2 movies, and maybe even the movies after that, you get some like Pokemon
you get a card.
cards.
Yeah,
It's
you
like,
get an exclusive Pokemon card.
Custom Pokemon cards, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, also almost all of the Pokemon are in the film that make an appearance
That's cool.
here and there.
That's cool.
Well, apparently, the funny thing is, like, the Detective Pikachu game itself is not very well regarded. So
Yeah, apparently it's Phoenix Wright, but like really
dumbed
like
down.
toned down. Yeah.
Yeah, to the point where you don't even want to finish the game.
Well, it's funny because now that the movie's out, people might see it in stores and go, "Oh," and then like there's just it's okay, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. But it's kind of funny. This is going to be one of the rare occasions where the movie adaptation is actually better than the source material.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
There's only been in my opinion, only one video game movie that's even lived up to its source, which was Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I hear the new Tomb Raider is also quite good.
Oh, I didn't get a chance to see that.
I
so
haven't. I've seen a
I can't
little
say.
bit of it, so I can't really comment. But I heard it was generally well received.
Yeah, that tied into the new Tomb Raider.
Yeah, the reboot Tomb
series.
Raider. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they make a point of her having that mountain
Yeah,
pick.
all the reboots are well received.
What is it?
All the Tomb Raider reboots are well received.
The first game is the best received, and then they kind of trailed down.
Petered out.
Yeah, I don't think they're like from what I've heard about
They're not
2 and
bad
3.
games.
They're not bad. It's just like okay, well.
The most recent one apparently isn't even as well regarded as the second one, and I talked about the second one quite a bit.
Yeah, you weren't really big on that when you were playing it.
And that's a shame too, because I gave you know me, I'll enjoy something just because you know I'll enjoy it to just enjoy it. But I really did not like her character in that game. She becomes a psychopath.
Yeah, but I have to do this. Oh, come on, lady.
Yeah, exactly. It was not a good storyline, and it became tedious, which is not good. Like none of that's good. So it's a shame. The first one is great. I love the first Tomb Raider reboot game. But you know, it's just what happens. I guess their direction is completely different than I would ever want. I mean, in Uncharted, they kind of make fun of the fact that you're a psychopath, but your character doesn't act like it, at least. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But like,
Depends on your perspective, but
yeah,
okay.
yeah, but like Drake is a likable character by the end of it. He's still smarmy and you know, lighthearted. Lara's just like, ugh, like she's just like, By the end of that game, you really dislike her. She's just like not fun. You know what I mean? But anyway, I think that'll do it for this week. What do you think, guys?
Yeah,
Sure.
probably think
Okay.
we're good.
Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. While there, please give us
Thumbs up and 5-star ratings on iTunes.
It helps promote and spread awareness of the
Press the
show,
bell.
and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. It also ensures that I can read.
No,
You
it
can also
doesn't.
catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, and Switch and Battle.net.
Net.
.net.
That's the one. You can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, like Alien Isolation, which is coming soon, and even getting involved in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
.net.
.net, sorry.
You can find, and then you can find me on Steam, Skype, and Discord. What Lair of the Croco Squirrel and Castles at Warven.
.net.
.net. All right, guys. We'll catch you on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Good evening.